to AEW Unrestricted, the official podcast of All Elite Wrestling. I am Aubrey Edwards here with my co-host, Will Washington. My voice is a little screwed up because I just got back from Australia, down under. Good day, mate. How are you, Will?
I am great. I did not go to Australia.
Oh, buddy.
But I was...
That travel.
Yeah, I was watching you guys all have a great time. It was actually by my own choice that I chose not to go this time around. And that hopefully next time I will make the choice to jump in. But yeah, everything looked like a great time. I saw everybody's koala pictures and
shout out to Dustin Rhodes and Tracy Irwin, the wife of Steve Irwin, for setting up that tour at the Australia Zoo. Like, it was absolutely incredible. I could not have been more happy. Like, holding a koala is great, but also just seeing, like, I'm a big animal lover. So seeing people who just go out of their way to help rehabilitate, educate, all these sort of things to help both the animal kingdom be better as well as the public be better in their understanding of animals. Like, it was an absolutely unreal experience, and my second favorite experience of the week, because the show itself was crazy. Like, I am not, this is not hyperbole, but Brisbane is my new favorite crowd. They were nuts.
Yeah, honestly, just watching it on TV and honestly watching the live feed, like, yeah, I will say that I very quickly, first off, I was like, wait, there's going to be koalas? I shouldn't have passed this up.
No.
I texting you, I was like, I just wanted to see the toilet spin the other way. But
which I confirmed.
You did text me. Yes, you did. And so, no, I thought that was all really cool. And I was so happy with all of it. And yeah, just honestly, I think that Brisbane, you all came through, and we cannot wait to come back. And of course, AEW Unrestricted, the official podcast of AEW, is presented by Upper Deck. And make sure that you collect your favorite wrestlers in 2024 Upper Deck AEW and start your trading card collection today. Unwrap autograph memorabilia or premium tech inserts. Visit upperdeck.com to learn more. And, it's funny that you just brought up Australia, because it is very fitting that I opened up my pack here, and the first card, I kid you not, that came out of this AEW Allure pack, which these cards are incredible.
Super shiny.
Yeah, there's incredibly shiny cards. You've got so many of your great favorite AEW stars, but the new AEW Women's World Champion, who won the title in the main event at Grand Slam Australia, timeless Toni Storm.
I just pulled an Australian, Mr. Kyle Fletcher, who had an incredible match along with Kenny Omega, Takeshita, and Will Ospreay. But I think the important thing that we need to talk about today with Upper Deck is our guest today. A little spoiler, has a very, very long career and has faced many, many people before they were big at AEW. We've got, some Hangman Adam Page with a AEW card. We've got Adam Cole. We've got, very importantly, Samoa Joe. A couple others, Swerve Strickland, and I refed that one on the indies myself. We've got who is this? Matt Jackson. Like, I could just keep pulling cards, and it's somebody who has faced our guest today. Which, speaking of which, Will, who is our guest today?
And ladies and gentlemen, we are joined today by a very special guest. He is AEW's head of talent relations, but he is also a legend in his absolute own right. He is the fallen angel, Christopher Daniels. CD, thanks for being here on AEW Unrestricted.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh my God. Oh, I'm so excited to have you here. It's been like, you were on before, but I think it was like pandemic era.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Maybe a little after.
Maybe. SCU was still a thing, so it was wild.
It's been a bit. A lot has changed.
A lot has changed. Well, let's talk about the most recent change. Let's talk about the biggest change of all, which is that officially you are no longer an in-ring competitor. You are no longer an in-ring performer. Talk a little bit about what that realization is like for you.
I'm still sort of getting used to it. I think my body has realized that I don't have to wrestle anymore, so it's just remaining sore as opposed to getting ready to wrestle again. Much to my chagrin. But I feel like there's a pressure that's been taken off, like a weight's been taken off my shoulders because, um, like for the last maybe 2 years, there was always a stress for me to be prepared, be ready to wrestle when called upon. And even though there wasn't that many opportunities in 2024 for me, in my head I was still a wrestler. And then once I was no longer the interim EVP, I thought, okay, well, this will be an opportunity to get back in the ring. And it just turned out that my body thought maybe it's time to cut this out. So, yeah, I mean, it's a change I'm still getting used to, but I think it's going to be a change for the better for me. If it's going to keep me healthy in my twilight years, which I feel like I've been in for like 20 years already. But yeah, I'm getting used to it. I'm getting used to it.
One of my favorite things after watching the match itself, which we'll get to, is seeing the reception that you had when you came home and all of the like things that your family had set up and all of this. How does your family feel knowing that you're no longer an in-ring competitor?
I think my wife is happy. Like she's seen me come home and be sort of miserable and uncomfortable from years of bad knees and years of bad neck and years of just wear and tear. And so, I think she's happy in the sense that she knows that that part of my life is behind me. And yeah, I mean, like the travel is still a thing. Like the being on the road as often as I am is still a thing. But coming home with stitches in my forehead or, limping because of something I did stupid in the ring, those days are done.
It was interesting that I think all of us behind the scenes obviously knew going into it what was coming out of this match, but I think that it hadn't quite hit the fans yet, and the moment it hit the fans was kind of right before it aired, and you could almost see like how had that outpouring felt like that every single fan was suddenly remembering their favorite Christopher Daniels moments and going up and down your career. And I imagine scrolling social media was almost a bit of a reunion of sorts because you kind of are seeing all of these moments from Christopher Daniels' history. What was that moment like going into it?
It's nice to know that the things you've done in your career have sort of affected people. And, you know, so much of our job depends on connecting with the fan base. And so that sort of outpouring after the match aired and after, I sort of let everybody know that that was it for me. Um, that outpouring sort of meant a lot to me. It made me think like, well, this wasn't for nothing. Um, and it's just very cool that people throughout my career have reached out and said, I really appreciate what you do. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for all the crap you've gone through physically to do what you do. Yeah, it means a lot to me that people come up to me and say, "Hey, I watched you." A lot of them say growing up, so that doesn't make me feel old at all. But yeah, I mean, when people say like I watched you and this match you had with this person really meant a lot to me. This period of time, whether it was Ring of Honor or TNA or the Independents or AEW, it doesn't matter where. It's just the idea that these people invested their time and their efforts to pay attention to what you're doing. It's a good feeling.
So I want to talk about the match itself because
Okay.
it was absolutely incredible. It was bloody and violent and in all of the ways that like violence and whatnot in wrestling can be beautiful. What was sort of your mindset going into that, knowing that it could possibly be your last match?
Well, I mean, like honestly, for the last couple of years, any of my matches could have been my last match. I knew that it was coming close. And, you go into a Texas death match knowing that it's not going to be, headlocks and head scissors and, arm drags. It's going to be punches and kicks and violence and who knows, whatever you can pick up and swing. That's what it's going to be like. So, I mean, I was prepared for that, and understanding the type of competitor that Hangman Page is, and the type of the brutality of the match itself. Like I knew I was going to get into getting beat up, and yeah, I mean, I've always just sort of thrown myself into those situations, whether it was like a gimmick match, ladder match, hardcore match, any of those things. You just throw yourself into it. And it hasn't killed me yet, so I figured what could be the worst that happens.
Yeah, and Hangman himself, the Texas Death Match is kind of his specialty. It's a thing he's been quite known for over the last few years. He's been in there with Lance Archer. He's been in there with Swerve Strickland, John Moxley. You name it. It's a match that has become synonymous with him, and so to do almost a match like of that magnitude, that is kind of his specialty, and to walk in with him and to go out with somebody like Hangman Adam Page, who you have been tied to in many ways over the years. There was a video that started circulating of one of his oldest promos, and it was Hangman at, I want to say he was about 18 years old, 18, 19, and he was cutting a promo on you. And for that to all come full circle had to be pretty special.
Yeah, I've known Hangman for 15 years, and when I met him the first time in this small independent arena in North Carolina, I sort of had an understanding like, okay, this guy's got something, and had you go on the independents and you meet like the local. That was sort of my role on the independents. I would go to these independent companies and wrestle like their guy. And that night, like meeting Adam and wrestling him, I was like, all right, well, this guy's got something, and he certainly has potential. It's just a matter of like finding the right spot. And then years down the line, when I returned to Ring of Honor in 2014, to see him there as a part of the decade with Roderick Strong and BJ Whitmer, I was like, okay, well, this is a good start. I mean, our Ring of Honor had always been sort of the first national exposure for a lot of independent guys. And it was good to see that he was there, and then to see him go from being, the guy in the decade to the guy in the Bullet Club to the Hangman Page. And I think there was talk near the end of ROH where there was opportunities where they were like, maybe this is the guy that we should start filtering into the world title picture. And for one reason or another, it didn't happen there. But around that period of time, people started understanding that Hangman Page was like a top guy. And, right when AEW started, I think like we realized like, okay, Hangman Page is someone to hitch your wagon to.
Hell yeah. One of those like, this guy's good. Let's bring him along. And
for real.
Turns out it's worked out pretty well for both him and AEW, as he's sort of our main character. This is an incredible conversation. There's so much more to talk about coming up on AEW Unrestricted, but we got to take a quick break. AEW Unrestricted, Aubrey and Will. We're talking to Christopher Daniels, the Fallen Angels, CD. That's him. Recently just retired from in-ring competition, but still on the road every single week, being the responsible adult. Speaking of which, one of the things that I love about CD is that he is a staple every single year on the Jericho Cruise, because there needs to be at least one responsible adult amongst all of us. And I'm just very appreciative that he sort of takes that role every time. We've been talking a lot about CD's retirement match, but there's also another retirement match that happened recently. And I know one of your friends, Curryman, also had his last match on the boat. And it was beautiful because we had this moment with the both of you at the end on the last day, with both of you in the ring together. What was it like to sort of see your friend also retire recently?
Well, he and I hadn't really been able to share locker rooms very often, just because, for one reason or another, like when I was fired from TNA, he came in for a year. He got fired and I came back, and then I think he was working at a Kinko's in Morioka for the last couple years. So, he'd sort of like taken wrestling, had become like sort of the hobby for him. And, I knew that he recognized that the Jericho Cruise was a place where like he could come and conceivably do something special. And yeah, just like I had no idea he was even gonna do like I guess at the end of the match when he came out and he said, this was it for him. It was a pretty cool moment, and I'm glad he got to go out in front of fans that appreciated him, and it was cool.
I love it. I love finally getting to see you guys in the same place. It truly feels like one of those moments where there's certain guys all over in the history of comics and time where you just wish you could see them together and you never got to, and finally we got to see Curryman and Christopher Daniels together
beautiful.
in one place, and
Yeah,
it was beautiful.
and he paid me back the money he owed me, so I mean that was cool.
Oh,
Like
that's the
it's
best.
been almost 20 years. So, I mean, I didn't charge him interest. I could have probably retired, but we do for friends. What do you do?
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about. I kind of want to take a bit of a rewind back because of the fact that the last time you were on this show, Ring of Honor and AEW weren't necessarily working in tandem. They definitely weren't both under Khan ownership. But now, Ring of Honor is a part of the AEW family, and the Ring of Honor World Championship exists alongside the AEW World Championship, the tag titles, all of that. And so it's almost, you were a part of the first match following the announcement of Ring of Honor being purchased by Tony Khan, where you got to face Bryan Danielson. And again, it was... it felt like a full circle moment in that, as a fan just viewing it, I felt like to see that much of your career come into the AEW fold, to be able to say that, okay, now it's all come here now. And so going forward, as Ring of Honor went forward, there were so many pieces where you got to be a staple of the newer Ring of Honor. You got to tag with Matt Sydal. How has it been kind of seeing a little bit more of a celebration of your career in AEW now that Ring of Honor is a part of the Khan family?
Well, I mean, I'm happy that Ring of Honor continues to exist. That company has been a part of my life for more than 20 years. And the things that I did in a Ring of Honor ring, no one can ever take away from me. So I was very happy that Tony decided to purchase the company and keep it running. I think they fell on hard times during the pandemic, and Joe Koff and Sinclair did an excellent job of keeping Ring of Honor alive as much as they could. But I felt like they felt at the time that it wasn't I guess monetarily feasible to keep it around, and so I'm glad Tony got an opportunity to purchase it and make it part of the AEW family, like you said. And it still continues to be an opportunity for a lot of guys to be seen. There's as big as AEW has gotten in the first 6 years of its existence, there's still only so much time that you can devote to so many wrestlers. And so by having Ring of Honor, it gives wrestlers that may not get an opportunity through the AEW branch to be seen by the fan base and to learn and grow and become better wrestlers and better performers. So, I mean, as long as that's around, like, ROH serves a purpose and is still a vital, integral part of professional wrestling as a whole.
It's so great. So I know that you've had a number of incredible moments at ROH, tagging with Frankie Kazarian as part of the Addiction, all of the tag matches you've had with Motor City Machine Guns, Young Bucks, all of these guys. In sort of your retirement era, is there anything that's sort of coming back to you in your mind as sort of a nostalgia as the important moments of ROH that you're most happy you've been a part of?
I mean, like everything, like being honestly, the opportunity to be world champion still sort of is one of the high moments of my career. Um, you know, I told Adam Cole that he was a part of the best match that I ever won. You
Ooh.
know, most of my best matches are matches that I've lost, and the only one that I ever won that people were like, "Oh, that was a really good match," was when I won the world championship.
15th
And so,
anniversary.
like, yeah. So, I mean, that match to me, like I told Adam Cole after I retired, like he is always going to be my brother because of that match and how much it meant to me to have that moment with him, especially such a great wrestler, such a great performer. It meant a lot to have that moment with him. And I just like the stuff, the ROH, the AEW ROH. I was very fortunate to be able to work with guys like Kyle Fletcher. I had a couple of tag matches with Aussie Open, and I did 2 singles matches with Kyle that were a lot of fun, and they stood out to me like these last 2 years of my career. Being able to be in the ring with him uh, was a lot of fun, and that was another moment where you're like, okay, this guy's going to be something. Um, I'm glad I had an opportunity to wrestle with him before I hung it up. Like that meant a lot to me. I got an opportunity to wrestle Joe again. Uh, and Joe has for 20 years been one of my toughest opponents, and one of my closest friends. And the kind of friend that can slap the shit out of you and you'll be like, yeah, okay, that's fair. Um, yeah, and if you know, you know. So
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I guess like all of those bits of ROH are still filtering through my mind as I sort of come to terms with this being it.
I think that's one of the things I've come to love about AEW from just witnessing backstage, is everybody has ventured off and kind of done their own thing over time, but the amount of reunions that I watch take place backstage always blows my mind. And seeing kind of all of you guys who got to come up together now working together, and like you mentioned Joe and how life took you on different paths but brought you back together in AEW. And Bryan Danielson, life took you guys on different paths, but there he is in AEW. And it's always been kind of cool just to watch that and to watch. Sometimes I just sit and you've seen me in the office. Sometimes I just sit and listen to you guys' stories because it is pretty amazing to watch your career have come. I can't think of a better place to have celebrated your career than AEW.
Cool. Thanks.
And that to me, I think is just it always feels like something special. And talking about kind of where everything began, and talking about SCU and how when you guys came into AEW, that was the act you guys had come in with, but it wasn't necessarily a it wasn't necessarily the focused act that I think you guys were in Ring of Honor and of the like, because when it almost felt like from the very beginning you guys were kind of coalesced around Scorpio Sky as a singles act. It felt like he was going to kind of be a bit of the guy that kind of rose up, and then as time went on, you and Frankie Kazarian started tagging and things of the like. How had you felt about SCU's run, both AEW and ROH, and where it eventually ended?
Well, I feel like when we left Ring of Honor, like we were just sort of scratching the surface of SCU. We had just come together the year before, and Frankie and I had already been wrestling, tagging together for close to 6 years at that point.
Yeah,
and we always felt like there was a place where, especially in Ring of Honor, we felt like, okay, we're good as a team, but if we had a third guy, we could really do something in Ring of Honor. And so we first started in ROH. We had Chris Sabin as a member for a bit, and then Hiromu Takahashi came in as Kamatachi, and we had him as our guy. And I felt like there were moments where, like, having a third member of the trio, which ended up becoming SCU, like, I always felt like the three of us playing off of each other was uh, there were a lot of different dynamics could be played with. And so, like, when we joined together with Scorpio, Frankie and Scorpio had a relationship a little bit longer than I had one with Scorpio, but like, we knew that Scorpio was uh, top notch from the beginning, and we were pushing very hard to get him into Ring of Honor. And finally, when it happened, we had a lot of potential, I think, as the trio. And then, when we came to AEW, the circumstances of Frankie and Sky becoming the first AEW tag team champions, it sort of put me out of the picture for a little bit. And then, once they lost the titles, I think the of focusing on Sky as the singles and focus on me and Frankie as a tag, which was fine. And, Scorpio went on to become TNT champion, on numerous occasions. And, then the situation with Frankie and I, where we, basically said we were going to split up if we didn't win the World Tag Team Championships. That was a gamble that we thought, we definitely hoped was going to go in our favor. But I mean, at the time, the Bucks were the top team in the world, still one of the top teams in the world. Oh, yeah. And very proud of the match that we had that ended up being the last match that Frankie and I had as a team in AEW. Now the three of us are sort of on completely different paths, but no matter where we are, like, I know those guys have my back and I have their backs, and they're forever my brothers, for real.
It was one of those moments that there's so many moments in my mind that stick out very clearly from the pandemic era of AEW, and the match that was SCU's last match. There's a distinct frame in my mind of you bleeding on one of the Young Bucks' shoes that just sticks out and is so beautiful. And once that match was done, I was like, no, they're SCU's is no, they can't break up. So it was very emotional, and seeing sort of all of these emotional moments that you've had that I've gotten to either witness close up or I've gotten to witness as a fan, as a coworker. They've all just been so special. And I really love that you've had the opportunity to chat with us today. And we've got a little bit more we want to chat about. So another quick break here on AEW Unrestricted.
AEW Unrestricted, it's Aubrey and Will. We're talking with the legendary fallen angel, Christopher Daniels. Before the break, we were talking about SCU and the Young Bucks, which brings me to a thing I very much wanted to ask about, which was BTE. Because, being the Elite really played a big part, I think, in SCU really getting known by the fans as a trio, and not just what you guys were doing in the ring, but as an act and as the camaraderie between you guys. And of course, that's where we really got to know your relationship with Matt and Nick and the Elite as a whole. I kind of want to talk a little bit about your how much fun BTE was for you over the years.
BTE was always great. It was a chance to sort of scratch a different itch. Trying to put these skits together, these little bits of wacky on the road theater that we were doing. It was always fun. I mean, it was a little bit of an extra responsibility, but I mean, it was always fun to get inspired into, like, what if we did this spot, or what if we did this bit? And that definitely, to your point, it really did sort of change SCU from being this antagonist villain trio to being the guys with the worst town I've ever been in bit that ended up getting over and turning his babyface near the end. Um, but yeah, just it was always fun to sort of be inspired and think like, oh, this would be funny, this would be something. And like I remember doing uh, the bits about the bump alert. Like I remember doing the bump alert, um, the commercial for the bump alert, like the don't let your comeback be your false finish or whatever. Um, Doing this stuff as the head of VP, the head of talent relations, with the red eye and the cloak, like I was the Undertaker.
Yeah,
Um,
great.
like those bits were fun. It was cool to sort of play it out and just be show a different side from angry wrestler Christopher Daniels to funny guy. And that definitely, like, BTE had so much to do with not just SCU, but AEW as a whole. Like, I don't think AEW would be around if BTE hadn't sort of brought the Young Bucks and Kenny and Cody and SCU, Brandon Cutler, like all these guys to the forefront and make us characters in the fans' eyes. I think like AEW has a lot to thank BTE for in that respect as well.
I remember watching BTE very early on before I was officially a part of AEW, and just the fan understanding of there's sort of these two universes that have this small Venn diagram. Like everything that
Mm,
you watch on BTE is very, very important, but know that there may be different guys on television. And I just love that aspect of wrestling that fans get it. That it's
yeah,
like, yes, this is important, but it's not like what we're really doing. It's fine, but you have to watch it and have to pay attention to understand all of the references. Like when Brody Lee showed up with a bunch of lawnmowers, and
right,
we're
right,
talking about all of this, like buying a bunch of baby back ribs from Chili's. And
yeah,
it's like, this is happening on national television. And unless you were watching this one tiny little YouTube show, you had no idea what the hell they were doing.
right,
And I just
right.
love all of
Like,
those
well, I
moments.
mean, Full Gear is named Full Gear because of the whole bit with Hangman Page and Pac at the press conference, and the idea like Pac came out in full gear, and Hangman at the time was being body shamed by the rest of the elite. Like that whole bit is we have a pay per view named for that now, and that's you know somewhat surreal to think.
It's just wild. Or like
Yeah.
the just little things like Double or Nothing being the
Hmm.
first pay-per-view we did, coming from All In, which is something
Right.
that you
Right.
guys sort of built from the ground up. Like it's incredible to see the impact that BTE had on AEW and wrestling as a whole and
Hmm.
all of these things that came from it. We talked a little bit in the last segment about sort of your constant path crossing with Samoa Joe and how you guys are coworkers now. But, I had completely forgotten that one of the first 5-star matches ever in America was a three-way with you and Samoa Joe and AJ Styles back in 2005.
Hmm.
What's it like working with Samoa Joe now as opposed to, over 20 years ago?
Well, I mean, it was sort of cool to see Joe grow from the young guy that I met him in UPW in like 1999, 2000. Wrestled him there for the UPW Heavyweight Championship. Uh, you know, Wearing his own T-shirt and blonde hair, slapping the crap out of me. To going to Ring of Honor, where he became such a staple, one of the longest reigning ROH champions. Then going through TNA, where he became TNA World Champion, and then seeing him, become successful in WWE, and then coming back, coming to AEW. Like he's grown so much and become such a figure in professional wrestling. And to say I knew him when is very cool. And the fact that he's one of my best friends, I stood up for him at his wedding. Uh, he held my baby daughter when she was, a couple weeks old. He's Uncle Joe here in the house. And to see the success that he's become and sort of one of the leading voices of reason in the locker room. Like Joe
Oh yeah.
knows what works in professional wrestling, um and above all that, he's just one of the coolest guys you'll ever meet. Like he's got swagger, he's got fucking aura, and that's Joe, man. That's just been Joe since 1999, and probably for another 30 years going forward. He's going to be just like that.
You know, I'm currently doing a count because one of the things I did want to talk about is that particular three-way that she talked about.
Okay.
And I can say this without hyperbole. I don't think that there's ever been a more perfect combination of three performers than you, Samoa Joe, and AJ Styles. I think that
thanks.
you guys, the three of you, work together so well with each other. And you guys have gotten to execute that three-way many, many times. I was trying to do a count. Do you have an official count of how many times the three of you have worked together in a three-way match? Because right now I'm up to 6, but I know that there's probably more. I'm trying to find all of them.
Well, so I know of 4 in TNA specifically, and then I know we did. Well, no, okay, 4 pay-per-view matches for TNA specifically, and then a couple different times for live events. Like I know we did one in, like the only match I ever wrestled in Paris was a three-way with those guys.
Paris. Yep.
I know we did one in 1PW.
Yep.
But yeah, it's got to be closer to like
I got
12,
10.
maybe
10.
12, 15.
But yeah, there's 11.
I feel like we did a couple for TNA live events in the US, like smaller, like when we were doing. There was a period of time where Hermie Sadler and TNA were doing like co-promoted, like Hermie Sadler had like an independent crew in the Southeast. I feel like we did a couple of TNA or Hermie Sadler like co-promoted shows, and I feel like we did at least one for one of those shows as well. So yeah, it's got to be close to like 15, and then and then obviously the singles matches of me and Joe and AJ, me and AJ, like now you start getting into the triple digits.
Yeah, I said, it's such a perfect combination. I almost want to go back to something you said earlier where you mentioned how a lot of your favorite matches had you taking the loss. But honestly, right off the top of my head, I always preferred the X Division Championship match, the one that you won, of the 3.
Which one was that?
Hold on. That was... Give me a second. I'm pretty sure, right? You
the
won
the Ultimate X one?
Yeah. Didn't you win that one?
I won the Ultimate X one we did.
Yeah.
That was your favorite? Okay.
I think so. Like, honestly.
Okay, different strokes for different folks. I suppose.
honestly, and a lot of it probably has to do with the fact that, slight bias here, that I was always such a big fan of the Fallen Angel as an act. I think that just in general, I think that Christopher Daniels was so cool. You had the coolest entrance. You had the coolest look. You were so unique in a way where when people were looking for an alternative for professional wrestling, and TNA was able to provide that in a lot of ways. And then all of a sudden you've got Christopher Daniels, who was a guy who just offered something very, very different. And there was this contingency of fans that just wanted to see you win. And so to get to see that, I think just meant a lot more to me.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I wish I could have won more often to make you happy, but it wasn't to be always.
I love this moment because it reminds me of a moment that CD and I had recently in the little train at the Atlanta airport, because I showed him a video of the first time we got to work together back at Defy, which is the day that I got offered Double or Nothing. So to me, it's this like super important moment in my entire life. And he's like, wait, did you do that match? And there's just so many
Took me a minute, yeah.
Right. And it's one of those things where it's like, there's so many things that as wrestling fans stick out to us as these incredible moments, and then where us as performers will go, oh, that one? Yeah. I guess, because we have so many things happening in our lives, and your career is so storied and incredible that something that was maybe insignificant to you is this super memorable moment to someone else.
Yeah, you never know what's going to affect anyone any certain way. And I mean, I've been cognizant of that in the last couple of years. And you know, like I said, when fans come up to me and they're like, "Hey, this match," um, so often it's that three-way with Joe and AJ, but sometimes it's just like, oh, I liked your entrance on this Ring of Honor show, or oh, this match you had at the Super 8, or oh, watching you wrestle, Jeff Hardy or Kurt Angle or any of these guys. Like, you never know what's going to become like a watershed moment in a fan's eyes or fans' minds, and so like it's just cool, like I said. And to see that with Aubrey, that moment, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. You sort of got a job that night.
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah, kind of a big
Just
deal. It's kind
career
of life
changing.
changing, little life changing. That was
Tiny,
just another
tiny.
night I got pinned. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Well, and
By
that
Swerve,
kind of
no less.
Yeah, right.
and that kind of brings a lot full circle, right? When you think about the fact that you've gotten to share the ring with so many guys
Yep.
over the years. You mentioned Kurt Angle, you've mentioned Samoa Joe, we've talked about AJ Styles, as she just mentioned Swerve, Hangman Adam Page. We talked about Kyle Fletcher, even in recent history, and just kind of knowing that. I think a big part of the legend that is Christopher Daniels is that you are a part of so many people's stories, and that and I guess that brings the question of kind of knowing that you get to leave professional wrestling in a better place because there are so many guys who, from a talent relations perspective, but also from a wrestling perspective, that you've gotten to produce matches, you've gotten to enhance the business in ways that you almost that are almost intangible. How do you look back on all of that as far as encapsulating your whole career?
Um, well, it gets me emotional, honestly. Uh, I think about I think about having to go to every guy in that locker room at some point, and I'm still doing it. Like I haven't finished. I haven't even scratched the surface. But there's going to be a moment where I'm probably going to walk up to every person I've ever wrestled in that locker room and be like, thanks for letting me wrestle. I there's a movie that I just watched called My Old Ass that's very, very poignant. And there's a scene where a guy goes, there's going to be a day where you're going to go out with your friends and you're going to play pretend, and you're going to come home and that'll be the last time you ever play pretend. And that hit me really hard because it was right. I watched it right when I had retired, right when I had made the decision. And I thought to myself, like, I've spent my life playing pretend, you know? And so like I'm gonna go up to each one of these guys and let them know like it meant so much to me to be able to share a ring with all of them and play pretend. And yeah, it just it's there's like even the worst wrestling match I ever had was wonderful. That in that sense of doing what you love to do and doing what you felt like you were sort of born to do. I got to do it for 32 years, and each match I ever had, even the worst one, was fun. And so like I'm gonna go up to each one of these guys and say, I appreciate how much we risk our lives, we risk our health to get in the ring and do this ridiculous dance called professional wrestling. And it just means a lot to me to be able to have gone out there and affect the lives of fans like I have. And if working with these guys has benefited them in any way, if I've made anyone happier or better as a professional wrestler, then that to me is just gravy. I'm so happy that I've had that if I've had that experience with people, I'm thrilled to have done that. But honestly, they enriched my life by giving me the opportunity to do what I did for as long as I did. And yeah, I'm gonna be. I think I'll be thanking people for the next 10 years. I'll be walking up to them and, hey, I remember this match and I appreciate it and thank you.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate that we still get the chance to work with each other every week. Because while you may
Thanks.
not be affecting people in that way anymore in the ring, you're still making our lives better backstage. You're still taking care of us as talent. Every year on the cruise, you're making sure that we're okay and we're having fun. And the amount of things that I've learned from you and that I will be able to learn from you in the future, I'm just really, really grateful that our paths have crossed.
Thanks, Oz. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Wasn't expecting to get super emotional on this one, but
I
fuck
know.
Hey,
it.
man.
I was on the hunt for my bringing it as we wrap this up. My desk is full of Upper Deck cards at the moment, and I was like, I know there's a Christopher Daniels one here.
Oh yeah, no, I've got one too somewhere.
Yeah, and I've been on the hunt for it, and unless I find it in the next 10 seconds, but I do want to remind everybody to make sure that you check out Upper Deck, because Upper Deck is our sponsor, and AEW Unrestricted is sponsored in part by Upper Deck, and you can collect your favorite wrestlers in 2024 Upper Deck AEW and start your trading card collection today. Unwrap autograph memorabilia and premium tech inserts and visit upperdeck.com to learn more. Christopher Daniels, thank you for being here on AEW Unrestricted. This was a great emotional conversation.
So great.
Loved it.
Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate it. And thanks to everybody that watches this. Thanks for putting up with me for 30 years, and let's keep AEW going, right?
Hell yeah. Oh my
Yep.
God. You can listen to and follow this podcast, AEW Unrestricted, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Check out the video on YouTube so you can watch, us get super emotional. We're on our YouTube channel, AEW Unrestricted. Hit the subscribe button. And obviously, don't forget, Dynamite is on TBS Wednesday nights, and we stream on Max. Collision live every Saturday on TNT and Max. ROH streams every Thursday on Honor Club. I'm Aubrey Edwards, along with my co-host, Will Washington. Thank you so much for listening to AEW Unrestricted.
Thanks, guys.